Hey everyone, so this will be my last video for today. This video will be over schedules of reinforcement, okay? So let's break down each schedule into its two components. First, the basis of reinforcement, alright? So you can either reinforce a behavior once it's been performed a certain amount of times, in which case you're using a ratio type schedule, or you can reinforce the behavior if it has occurred within a given amount of time. If you're doing that, then you're using an interval schedule. Okay. Now both of these can be either fixed or variable. So if you have a fixed ratio schedule, then every time a behavior is performed so many times, it gets reinforced. So a fixed ratio schedule could include reinforcing the behavior every time it occurs. It could include reinforcing the behavior every fifth time the behavior occurs. It could include reinforcing behavior every 10th time. It doesn't matter how many times it is, but it's fixed so that number of times remains constant. Okay, so you reinforce it every fifth time, or every 10th time, or every one time. That's a fixed ratio. You can also have a variable ratio, which means the number of times the behavior has to occur in order to be reinforced varies. So the first time the behavior may have to occur 5 times, and then you reinforce it the fifth time it happens. The next time it may have to occur 7 times, in which case you reinforce the person or organism the 7th time the behavior occurs. Next time it might have to only occur once, so you reinforce them after 1 time of performing the behavior. Alright? So the number of times the behavior has to occur varies in a variable ratio schedule. Also, interval schedules can be fixed or varied. So if you have a fixed interval schedule, then the interval remains fixed. So let's say your interval is 5 minutes long. So the first 5 minute passes, have they performed the behavior? Yes, you reinforce the behavior. Another 5 minute passes, have they performed the behavior? Yes, reinforce them. Another 5 minutes passes, have they performed the behavior? Yes, reinforce them. Alright, so the interval of time remains constant in a fixed interval schedule. Okay. In a variable interval schedule, the length of the interval varies. Okay, so the first interval might be 5 minutes long, the next might be 7 minutes long, and the next might be 3 minutes long. Okay, so at the end of the first 5 minutes, have they performed the behavior? Yes, reinforce them. At the end of the next 7 minutes, have they performed the behavior? Yes, reinforce them. At the end of the next 3 minutes, have they performed the behavior? Yes, reinforce them. And at any point, or at the end of any of those intervals, if the behavior was ever not performed, then of course you don't reinforce them. Okay. So now let's go over a few examples. So an everyday example of a fixed ratio schedule would be eating apple pie, because apple pie is fantastic. And every time you eat it, you feel good. Your hunger is satiated, your mouth is ecstatic, you are happy. You are reinforced every time you eat apple pie. And if you don't like apple pie, if you don't like apple pie, then okay. Variable ratio. An example of a variable ratio would be gambling. Okay, so imagine people in a casino just pulling away at the slot machine. The number of times they have to pull that lever. Actually, I don't think they do that anymore. I think they press buttons now. So let's go with pressing buttons. So the number of times they have to press a button, alright, on their touch screen before they're going to get a jackpot varies. Okay? So again, it's the number of times the behavior is performed and how many times you have to perform it before getting the jackpot varies. Alright? So that would be an example of a variable ratio schedule. A fixed interval schedule, an example would be your paycheck. Alright, so let's say you get paid every 2 weeks or every month like me. Okay, so it doesn't matter how many times you perform your behavior in those 2 weeks or in that month. at the end of that time period, at the end of that interval, every 2 weeks or every month, at the end of that interval, if you perform the behavior, you get reinforced. Okay, so that's fixed interval. A variable interval schedule might be something like a pop quiz. Okay, so the behavior being reinforced with pop quiz is paying attention in class and studying. All right, but you never know when a pop quiz is going to occur. So the interval, the length of the interval, could be a week, it could be a month, it could be whatever. The interval is varied. Now the reinforcement is getting a good grade on the quiz. So if in the 2 weeks since the last pop quiz you've been studying and you've been listening in class, then you will do well on the pop quiz and you get reinforced for the behavior of paying attention and studying. If during that interval you haven't been paying attention or you haven't been studying, then you won't do well on the pop quiz and you don't get reinforced. Does that make sense? I don't know why I asked that. You can't answer me. How about you let me know via an email if you have any questions. Alright, and that's it for today. So, or at least that's it for this video. As always, if you have any questions, send me an email or send me a message on my faculty Facebook page. Yeah. So,